Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Run in the Paint recap. I'm Miles here with Ben. Ben, how are you doing today?
Doing well today.
Good, good, good. Enjoying Memorial Day weekend. Want to wish you guys all out there a happy Memorial Day. Today, we're going to cover the two games that occurred over the weekend. We had a couple big game threes of the conference finals, and two teams that were down 2-0, both getting back into their series by taking home game three. Starting off with the Eastern Conference Finals, and in another game where a stunning outcome occurs. It's really been hard to tell what's going to happen in this series. The New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers going at it in game 3 after the Pacers took both games in Madison Square Garden. Indiana got off to a great run in the second quarter, had a 20-point lead, but then those New York Knicks came back once again and took home game 3 106 to 100 to get back into this series. Ben, I think the first thing we need to start off with is the adjustment that Tom Thibodeau made going into this game, switching up his starting lineup, putting Mitchell Robinson in there for Josh Hart, going a little bit bigger. What were your thoughts on the change that Tibbs made to the starting lineup?
Yeah, going into the game I really liked that change and I think the Knicks needed more height and just length and versatility to try and disrupt the Pacers and just cause them to get into more trouble and I see it seemed to work in this game free. Pacers, they didn't shoot the ball great for free. They didn't look as good overall offensively tied against the Knicks. So I think the plan turned out to be well. I think they should stick with it going forward. And, Mitchell Robinson throughout the series has been giving the Pacers trouble on the boards. He's been doing a great job at snagging rebounds around Pacers players.
Yeah, and he caused havoc once again. Both him and Towns went crazy on the boards in their minutes. Robinson only had 6 boards, did have 3 offensive rebounds, and Cat had 15 rebounds in his monster game, but really mostly in the fourth quarter. But we'll get to that in a little bit. The big storyline throughout this game after the first quarter, which was pretty tight. It was pretty back and forth between the Knicks and the Pacers after the first quarter tie, or it was a 30 to 26 lead for Indiana. Pacers then went on a huge run in the second quarter, forcing a ton of turnovers, leading immediately to highlight fast break dunks at the other end, which we've been seeing from the Pacers all playoffs long. Um, and New York was getting into foul trouble like it was nobody's business. It was unbelievable. Brunson had 4 fouls in the first half. Towns had three. Deuce McBride had 3 fouls in the first half. And that really hindered the Knicks from getting a huge rhythm because the Pacers kept getting to the free throw line and getting to the basket.
Yeah, exactly. And Pacers' fast pace there in the second quarter was giving the Knicks trouble. And yeah, it should have been more careful with the fouling as well. Then, if you were the Knicks, and yeah, Pacers there with a smart job at pulling a head big like that. To end the first half.
Yeah, so they go up by 20 with a few minutes to go in the second quarter, and you're the New York Knicks. This is now you're really in shambles a little bit. You're already down 2-0. You're down by 20 in the first half. The Gainbridge Fieldhouse is going crazy there. But the Knicks went on a nice run there to end the first half. They went on a 10-3 run in the final few minutes of the second quarter to cut the lead down to 13 at halftime. And that close to the first half gave them a lot of great momentum heading into the second half to keep playing their brand of basketball. I think that for the first time in this series, we saw the game played at the Knicks pace. It's a little slower, more defensive minded, more isolations, and it really caused the Pacers, problems. Their offense really struggled in the second half. They struggled to get a lot of great shots there, and I think it was a lot due to the way that the Knicks were able to close the first half.
Yeah, the Knicks, that was when they started figuring things out more, and finally some more shots. Then they were able to knock down. So yeah, I think that must have given them some good momentum going into the second half because they continued, to just figure out how to get a bit better against this Pacers team.
Which is certainly going to be key going forward. But heading into the fourth quarter, the Pacers still had a decent lead. I believe it was, let me see what their lead was going into the fourth quarter, because I know the Knicks had made a steady run of things, but it was still a 10-point Pacers lead heading into the fourth quarter. And in the fourth quarter, with Jalen Brunson in foul trouble, picking up his fifth foul early in that fourth quarter, it was Carl Anthony Towns, the other All Star, that stepped up and went crazy in the fourth after a very, lackluster first three quarters and his previous performances in game two. He goes for 20 points in the fourth quarter, absolutely taking over the game. And he was just absolutely unbelievable. What were your thoughts on Cat's performance in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, I was just super impressed. I mean, and the Knicks badly needed that from him. He was looking rough recently in this series up until that fourth quarter where he just looked like his all-star self. He getting, good shot looks that were good for him. He was making those shots, and then he was crashing the boards really well, getting rebounds, and just playing super hard, and finally finding a way to just play great to where it made things difficult on the Pacers. But I think the Pacers, they should have played a bit more harder, to end the game to try and close it out. I think they took their foot off the gas pedal a little bit.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. They definitely took their foot off the gas. They weren't playing as hard. Towns again was incredible with some of the tough shots that he made. Some of those, the one step back three on the left wing was absolutely ridiculous over two defenders. Um, but no one else really for the Knicks had that big of a standout game when you take a look at the stat sheet. But it was what some of these other guys did coming off the bench that really played, a huge impact on the game. Yeah, Tom Thibodeau has been known for not giving his bench that much of a chance, but in the biggest game of the season with his team, with his team season on the line here in the conference finals, he played a legit nine-man rotation and all of them really contributed. I mean, Josh Hart finally got back to playing like Josh Hart. He's normally a starter. Came off the bench and grabbed a bunch of key rebounds in the fourth quarter to seal the deal, but then it was the other 3 guys that came in. Deuce McBride was huge at the end of the third quarter when Brunson had the foul trouble. And then DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet just making some key plays, in random moments. And that, you would not have expected us to be mentioning these names here in the conference finals, but they both played their impact. And this was a great team performance all across the board by the New York Knicks.
Yeah, it sure was. And yeah, Deuce McBride, when he came into the game off the bench, gave the Knicks a nice lift. He stepped up well for Brunson when he was on the bench. He came in and made some big shots offensively. And Josh Hart, even though he unfortunately for him couldn't started this game, I was pleased with his effort still and with the attitude, to just play whatever role he was given in this game, and he came in and just played hard and played well and grabbed some rebounds and just continued to be a great team player for the Knicks in this game. And yeah, I was surprised that Top Fudo gave some playing time to Milan Wright and Shamit, but I guess with Brunson's foul trouble thing and Towns getting the foul trouble, that was why he had just thrown them in, I guess, for a bit. But they did all right. They did solid. I was, you know, pleased even with their impact for the Knicks off the bench.
Yeah, I mean Landry Shamet, good 3-point shooter. Not known for his defense, but he drew a charge in this game. He was a plus 12 in 11 minutes. DeLon Wright, was solid. He's always been a decent, tenacious defender. He'll give full court pressure. And I think across the board, the way that the Knicks defended the Pacers in this game was just so much better. I mean, we've become so used to seeing the Indiana Pacers have offensive performances where for the most part, they don't really get many bad shots. They get so many great quality looks that are either open threes or, open dunks at the rim from fast break opportunities or layups. Or if it is a mid range shot, it is a design mid range play off of a pick and roll or a post up for, a guy like Pascal Siakam. And the way that the Knicks were able to rotate defensively when the Pacers were trying to move the ball around and get back defensively, it was so huge because the Pacers had so many rough offensive possessions in the second half of this game, and especially in the fourth quarter when it came down to crunch time.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Knicks defense it was definitely better in this game three than in the first few games, and I was just really impressed with their effort defensively. And yeah, I was impressed with how they closed out Pacers shooters by the 3-point line, and that helped the Pacers not shoot it well at all from free in this game. Only 20% from free for the Pacers. So yeah, finally the Knicks, caused the Pacers to have a rough shooting game from free in these playoffs.
Yeah, and they took advantage of it. If in these playoffs, if you get the Pacers shooting that poorly from three, you got to take advantage. You mentioned 20%, 5 for 25 from deep. Halliburton was the only player that made multiple threes. Besides Halliburton, in the second, or well, really throughout the game, he had 20 points, and TJ McConnell in the first half. Really not a lot of great performances on the Pacers. Miles Turner had 19 points. He was solid to start off, but Siakam, 17 points. He was a minus 21 out there. They didn't really go to him a whole lot until the fourth quarter when things were a bit slowed down. Something to watch going forward is Aaron Neesmith had a tough ankle injury in the second half of the game. Didn't come back in for a little while, but it allowed the Knicks to kind of get a rhythm having one of their best perimeter defenders off the floor and also one of their best 3-point shooters. So his status for the rest of the series is going to be key. He did end up returning, but his status is going to be important. But either way, Indiana had a problem scoring against the New York defense in the second half. Going forward into game 4 now, which is a pretty big game now for both teams. What do you think the Pacers need to do to get back to that, sort of easy motion, flowing offensive style that has made them so tough to guard in these playoffs?
It's a good question. I mean, they're just gonna have to play quick, play fast, and then just try to hope that they can force turnovers and get out quick in transition. The Pacers could just be doing so well um, when they're able to do that. And they just got to play hard in game four. They got to really want it. They got to really want game four even more than the Knicks, and they got to figure out how they can get back to getting open coming into game four.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Pacers just need to get back to playing their brand of basketball, which again they did in the first half, but the way that New York closed it and just played throughout the entire second half, it made things very difficult for the Pacers. You have a lot of guys playing back down to normal here with Neesmith 2 for 8, Nemhard 2 for 9 from the field, and not a whole lot of bench production either. So we'll see if the Pacers can bounce back here. This now sets up a tremendously huge game 4 That will be on Tuesday night back in Indiana, because now you're in the situation, if you're Indiana, you won both games in MSG to take the 2-0 lead. Definitely don't want to give back the home court advantage by losing both at, your place. And then New York, you don't want to go down 3-1. You just don't want to go down 3-1. So that's going to be a huge game for both teams. Ben, you have anything else on this particular game before we move on?
It's just been a great series, great hoops in this series. So, that's definitely something I've really have enjoyed from it as well.
Yeah, this series has definitely been, very competitive. All three of these games coming down to the final minutes. And it's great that we have had competitive basketball in this series, because the other conference final has not really been that competitive. And we can move on to that one right now. Game 3, the Western Conference Finals. Saturday night, OKC was up 2-0 in the series. Minnesota needed to take game 3 in order to get back into the series. And boy, did they ever. They gave OKC their worst performance of the season as the Timberwolves defeated the Thunder 143 to 101. Yes, that is correct. A 42-point victory, most points in Timberwolves franchise history in the playoffs. And Minnesota, again, just like New York, right back in the series with the game 3 victory. Ben, to start off this, talking about this game, we talked a lot about how Minnesota just needed to hit some shots, get their role players going, and needed to just take care of the basketball better than they had in the two games in OKC. And in this game, right from the jump, they started, they played about as perfect a game as you could against Oklahoma City.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great to see role players finally stepping up in this game for the Timberwolves. Guys that came in off the bench finally were able to start doing some scoring in this series of game 3, and I love that they brought in Terrence Shannon Jr. finally in this game off the bench. He came in, played with great energy, great hustle, and he got them some nice baskets off the bench. I think you got to consider possibly um giving him some minutes still going forward in this series off the bench. That worked well in this game. And Anthony Edwards, he was just big superstar Anthony Edwards. He didn't want to lose this game, and he was phenomenal offensively, and he did great stuff defensively too. He still is a good defender. Then Julius Randle was big too. Um, like I've said before, when he can play well, this Timberwolves team can do pretty good, and he, you know, didn't have like his best game to Julius Randle, but he played pretty well. He had 24 points and played well defensively, and I think he figured out, um, the Thunder big guys better and what the Thunder like to do in this game.
Yeah, I mean, there were just so many great performances for Minnesota, and I think it was led by their two stars. Randall had a very good bounce back game after a brutal game too, but Anthony Edwards was just masterful out there. 30 points in 30 minutes, 9 boards, 6 assists, 12 for 17 from the field, 5 for 8 from 3. And you mentioned his defense. I mean, the way he set the tone in that first quarter when Minnesota just went crazy. I mean, they outscored OKC by 20 in the first quarter. And there were a couple plays where Edwards just broke through a play and just, stole the ball from the, OKC ball handler, bringing it across. And, he got that crowd going right from the jump. Edwards was fantastic. We mentioned Randall. You mentioned Terrence Shannon Jr., who's, been a very impressive rookie in the moments that he's gotten this year. I remember after maybe it was game 2, Nick and I were on here, and Nick was saying that, hey, maybe you give one of those rookies a shot there. And Terrence Shannon comes in, 15 points in 13 minutes. I mean, after that incredible first quarter where the Wolves are up by 20, Chris Finch is like, all right, let's throw in Terrence Shannon Jr. And that shows a lot of trust that Chris Finch, had in his rookie. in that situation, it's a very difficult situation because you're up 20 in the first quarter against a great team. The last thing you want to do is, put in a player that hasn't played a whole lot and, give up a run immediately to start the second quarter and then OKC's back in the game. But he had the trust in his rookie and Shannon scored like the first 7 to 9 points in the second quarter in just a few minutes. So Chris Finch pressed all the right buttons in this game, didn't, overreact, didn't switch his starting lineup, and everyone played well. I mean, obviously, a big thing is that they just shot the ball incredibly well, 20 for 40 from three. Seven guys hit multiple threes, including DiVincenzo Reed and Alexander Walker, three guys who all struggled in OKC in the first two games. So just overall, an incredible victory for Minnesota, winning by 42 points. And again, defensively, making Shea Gilgeous-Alexander the MVP of the league have his worst game of the season, only scoring 14 points, 4 for 13 from the field.
Yeah, just even better defense for the Timberwolves in this game. They have been a pretty good defense this year, but yeah, they needed to step it up even more this game. They sure did. It just really impressed the way they guarded Shea in this game. I mean, they're making Shea confused, have a tough time, and the Timberwolves right now were leaving like Shea like open for free sometimes. They didn't really want him driving to the basket, and that proved to be a good defensive strategy. And then just outside of Shea, unfortunately, it was a down game from J Dub and Chen. Just no one else could really get it going for the Thunder. So yeah, it was just trouble offensively this game for OKC and just seemed defensively as well.
Yeah, I mean, OKC, it was their worst performance of the season. I mean, they have not had a whole lot of nights like this where they've just gotten beaten down like this. Of course, 68 wins during the regular season, but comes in, a huge game in game three of the conference finals. And no one really had that great of a performance, from the guys that they needed to. And they just didn't play hard enough. They didn't play hard enough. They didn't have the focus going on the road up to nothing. And you could see that from a young team. I think this is still the youngest team in the NBA. Um, and it doesn't help when you're not playing hard enough, you're not hitting shots, you're turning the ball over yourself. And then Minnesota is hitting every, shot for the most part. Their stars are playing well. They're getting their role players involved. That's how you kind of get a result like this. So moving forward in this series, do you think that this is a game that OKC really needs to look back on and dwell in a whole lot? Or is this just all right, we just had a horrible game, our worst of the season, we didn't play our best. We can fix this and just, we just need to play our game in game four.
I think it's just they got to play their game in game four and just play even better. They don't need to panic too much. They got a 2-1 lead still this series. And they just got to play even better as a team in game four. They got to be back to being focused the right way, and you know they I think they should be hopefully even better prepared for Minnesota game four, and it'd be huge if they could take game four to give up 3-1 and that lose both in Minnesota. But we'll see. It'll be interesting for Minnesota. The role guys gotta keep up playing well. Julius Randle's gotta have another big game and make a big impact again on both ends of the floor. And Anthony Edwards just gotta keep playing like a superstar if they want to tie things up at 2-2. So they gotta have like a similar kind of recipe for success in Game Four if they want to win that, just like they did in Game Three.
Yeah, I think that, Minnesota needs to have Julius Randle, obviously playing well. Like you said, I think he is the X factor. We have the numbers when he plays well. This Timberwolves team has had great success against OKC. When he struggles, they're terrible. Frankly, when he struggles, in this series. So they need another big game from Randall. I think that I definitely would not expect another game like this from Minnesota where you're getting this much contribution from all these players in your rotation, all hitting a bunch of shots. I think that you just need probably two of your role guys to have great impacts, whether that's McDaniels. I mean, it's probably McDaniels and then one of those three guys off the bench, DiVincenzo, Reed, Alexander Walker, and maybe a fourth if Shannon plays again. I think that Minnesota is going to need four players to have, very good games. Edwards, Randall, McDaniels, and then one of those, guys off the bench in order to get back into this series because this OKC team, I think that they are going to respond very well to this. But this is going to be a major test for the Thunder. They haven't faced a whole lot of adversity. They faced it in the Denver series in the second round, but we haven't seen how they can respond after just a bludgeoning that they took in game 3. So I'm excited to see how both teams can respond to this game.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing how they respond to in game four. Should be an interesting game four coming up, and I think it'll be a better, more competitive game too. In game four, I believe the Thunder will be able to bounce back better and be refocused in game four.
Yeah, I think that both teams will definitely play, or I think OKC will definitely play better in game 4. But you're right about the competitiveness because this series, I mean, it has been three blowouts in 3 games. I hope that we get some sort of close game. And the crazy thing is, looking at the final scores of these games. So this game, let's see, 42-point win for Minnesota. Game 2 was OKC by 15. Game 1 was OKC by 26. So if you look at the differential overall in the series, if my math is correct, Minnesota is outscoring the Thunder by 1 point, which would make it seem like it's been a super close series, but no, it's been because it's been three blowouts. So I hope that we get a competitive game in game 4, which is tonight, 8:30 p.m. on ESPN. Huge game 4 again from Minnesota. The Timberwolves looking to come back and even the series at 2 games apiece, while Oklahoma City looks to bounce back from their worst performance of the season to take a commanding 3-1 lead in the Western Conference Finals. Ben, you have anything else before we get out of here?
Uh, that I don't, and happy Memorial Day. Enjoy a nice day off on today.
Yes, sir. Happy Memorial Day to all you guys out there. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, you can leave a like, subscribe for more NBA postseason content. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you in the next one.